Well, what a time to be alive. Americans wanted a government that spoke the blunt truth to them, and it seems like they got it. When you listen to the first press conference from the new press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, and I think the response we got this week over the issue of immigration and deportation has so many different tangents that we need to explore, so let's take a look at this before we dive in.
Two questions on deportations, if I may. President Trump had said on the campaign trail that he would deport pro-Hamas students who are here on visas. And on his first day in office, he signed an executive order that said, quote, the U.S. must ensure that admitted aliens and aliens otherwise already present in the U.S. do not bear hostile attitudes towards its citizens, culture, government, institutions, or founding principles. So should we take this executive order as Trump saying he would be open to deporting those students who are here on visas but, hold pro-Hamas sympathies?
The president is open to deporting individuals who have broken our nation's immigration laws. So if they are here illegally, then certainly he is open to deporting them. And that's what this administration is hard at work at doing. We receive data from DHS and from ICE every single day. From what we hear on the ground, ICE agents are feeling incredibly empowered right now because they actually have a leader in this building who is supporting them in doing their jobs that they were hired to do, which is to detain, arrest, and deport illegal criminals who have invaded our nation's borders over the past 4 years. That's what the president is committed to seeing.
Now, I think this was an excellent maneuver to answer a question that we're seeing repeatedly being whipped into a frenzy by the media. But before I tell you though, this channel is where you find independent journalism like this, and we are not beholden to anyone's interests except this country. So please be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more hard-hitting facts just like this. Now, I think there's two reasons why the MSM is doing this. First, two things can certainly be true at once, and that catching criminal element in the illegal immigrant population inside the US is not at odds with stopping the flow of suspects at the southern border. And secondly, the executive order that this NBC reporter mentioned actually doesn't lie on a different plane to another action we saw from Donald Trump last week, which is invoking the Section 212F of the Immigration and Nationality Act to halt the asylum processing of any person that the president deems is detrimental to the interests of the United States, allowing him to suspend the entry of all aliens and or any class of alien as immigrants or non-immigrants. And that's clearly a broader term than something with a clear legal definition as someone with a charge or conviction. On that, I think Karoline Leavitt, there's really no point in mincing words to sugarcoat things, unlike her predecessor, Karine Jean-Pierre. And because illegal immigration is one of the biggest reasons that propelled this administration into the White House with a mandate.
Just following up on the question on immigration first, President Trump during the course of the campaign in 2024 said the following about illegal immigration. He said, they're going back home where they belong, and we start with the criminals. There are many, many criminals. NBC News has learned that ICE arrested 1,179 undocumented immigrants on Sunday, but nearly half of them, 566 of the migrants, appear to have no prior criminal record besides entering the country illegally. Is the president still focused exclusively, which is a civil crime, it's not criminal?
It's a federal crime.
So I'm asking though, he said he was going to focus on those violent offenders first. So is violent offenders no longer the predicate for these people to be deported?
The president has said countless times on the campaign trail, I've been with him at the rallies, I know you've been there covering them too, Peter, that he is focused on launching the largest mass deportation operation in American history of illegal criminals. And if you are an individual, a foreign national, who illegally enters the United States of America, you are, by definition, a criminal. And so therefore, you are subject to deportation.
I apologize for interrupting. So to be clear, it's not violent criminals do not receive precedence in terms of the deportations taking place.
The president has also said two things can be true at the same time. We want to deport illegal criminals, illegal immigrants from this country, but the president has said that, of course, the illegal criminal drug dealers, the murderers, the individuals who have committed heinous acts on the interior of our country and who have terrorized law-abiding American citizens, absolutely, those should be the priority of ICE, but that doesn't mean that the other illegal criminals who entered our nation's borders are off the table.
Did that reporter really try to make some false distinction between crime or civil crime? No such distinction exists when your very presence inside the physical boundaries of the United States is inherently in violation of U.S. law. More specifically, Section 1325, which clarifies as saying, quote, any alien who enters or attempts to enter the United States at any time or place other than as designated by immigration officers, can be fined or imprisoned for it. And right now, the only real challenge that some people thought could exist for Donald Trump's deportation plan was whether host nations would be willing to take back illegal immigrants, and even the New York Times tried this week to put cold water on these plans by somehow implying that they're not a unilateral decision on part of the host nation, like the US. But as we saw last week in the case with Colombia in South America refusing to allow planes carrying illegal Colombian migrants to land, the resulting row ended as quickly as it began, with Donald Trump imposing 25% tariffs on all Colombian goods to goad the Colombian government to accepting the deportation flights.
Absolutely. I'll echo the answer that the president gave on Air Force One last night when he was asked a very similar question by one of your colleagues in the media. This signifies peace through strength is back. And this president will not tolerate illegal immigration into America's interior. And he expects every nation on this planet, again, to cooperate with the repatriation of their citizens who illegally entered into our country and broke America's laws. Won't be tolerated. And as you saw, the Colombian government quickly folded and agreed to all of President Trump's demands. Flights are underway once again.
Now, of course, tariffs are a tricky balancing act because using them as a negotiating tool means it's the consumer that ends up paying more if they fail to get you what you want. And while this may have worked in Colombia, there's little doubt that Donald Trump is going to try and use tariffs to twist the arm of foreign nations to get everything from reparation flights to ending needless wars. That means right now the optics may have looked good for the president, but we'll have to wait and see whether that's a sustainable strategy moving forward. But you know, a deeper shift we've seen in the last 4 years, it's that the illegal immigration crisis almost had to get worse before it got better, because there's almost starting to be bipartisan consensus that the disaster of illegal immigration over the last 4 years has caused desperate times that require desperate measures. And you see that with polls from places like IPSOS that reveal 2/3 of Americans support deportation of people in the country illegally, and there's even calls from inside the Democratic Party over the last year, like New York Mayor Eric Adams, who have been screaming to get the attention of their party to a crisis that would eventually lose them the election.
110,000 migrants. We have to feed, clothe, house, educate the children, wash their laundry sheets, give them everything they need, health care. And this team here, we stated, let's do everything possible before we have to push it out into neighborhoods and communities. Month after month, I stood up and I said, this is going to come to a neighborhood near you. Well, we're here. We're here. We're getting no support on this national crisis, and we're receiving no support. And let me tell you something, New Yorkers. Never in my life have I had a problem that I did not see an ending to. I don't see an ending to this. I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City. We're getting 10,000 migrants a month. One time we were just getting Venezuela. Now we're getting Ecuador. Now we're getting Russian-speaking coming through Mexico. Now we're getting Western Africa. Now we're getting people from all over the globe have made their minds up that they're going to come through the southern part of the border and come into New York City. And everyone is saying it's New York City's problem. Every community in this city is going to be impacted. We got a $12 billion deficit that we're going to have to cut. Every service in this city is going to be impacted.
But while no one was listening back then, everyone is listening now, especially after the Lake and Riley Act was passed, allowing the Department of Homeland Security to apprehend illegal migrants charged or convicted of violent crimes. But while the Trump administration is moving quickly with its deportation drive, we'll have to wait and see how it translates in the months moving forward if the political cost of this drive becomes higher. Let me know in the comments how you see all of this panning out, and share this with people that have an important voice to add. We will certainly have a close eye on these developments as America is put into a sudden reverse gear with its border policy over the last 4 years.